Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 165. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. I want you guys to mark your calendar for the Toronto Unconvention, July 22nd through the 24th, 2016. The meetup where we'll talk real IT business. Now let me go ahead and introduce the co-hosts. We have Marvin Bee from MB Systems. How you doing, Marvin?
So, I've got the short sleeves on, but to, pay homage to everybody that's cold, we do get cold here in Florida, so I wanted to show you, I do have a sweatshirt that I'm not wearing today, obviously, but at some point I will.
Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that, as I'm freezing in my office here. Thanks. Also joining us today, we have Rob Lavell from UpperCase Computer Solutions and Busy Bench. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, doing pretty good. Hey, I also have our new shirts on. Just want to point that out. We got the highlights. It's Southern Oregon, so the worst our winter gets is a little bit of a drizzle, and we might get a thick frost once in a while. But we don't need sweaters. I could have actually worn shorts today, but I decided not to. So we don't have embroidered sweaters, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, we don't have our Northern Canadian joining us. He must have no internet or be in snowpocalypse or something. I'm not sure what, but
like
yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyways, Marvin, why don't you go ahead and give us a start this week and share one tip or story with us that we could learn from.
Well, I will give another story. Last week, I received 2 phone calls from previous customers of mine. One was from a real estate management company, and if any of you have worked with those types of companies, you know that they get bought and sold all the time, so management is always changing from building to building, and it just so happened that the one that I worked with changed management 3 times in the 2 years that I worked with them. The last time, the previous manager before I worked with them came back, brought their tech company back, so we lost that account. So just last week I got a call from the first manager the first time I worked with them, and she was at a new building and wanted to call us to bring us into that building. So I appreciate the fact that they trust us and like us enough to bring us wherever they are. So I just want to tell everybody that, if you do a good job, people remember that, and they'll call you back later. The second call was from a law firm that I actually had to boot. And it wasn't your typical boot where, you don't pay, or you guys don't want to upgrade, or, them telling us, you guys screwed up our system. This was a law firm that had basically 2 partners operating completely separate businesses in the same space, but using the same physical network. So I managed the bigger part of the law firm, and then the other side had their tech that would come in to manage their workstations, even though it was physically on our network. And we went through a little deal where probably, I think it was 2010, where he wanted to upgrade the network, new server, new workstations, but he wanted to buy all this stuff off eBay. And I said, not a chance. And he said, why? I can get it cheaper. And I said, you probably can, but I am not going to support that equipment. I'll install it, I'll set it up, but if there's any problems with it, you're going to have to go back to them. Well, reluctantly, he let us purchase the hardware. It was all HP equipment, no big deal. But when they moved to new space, and we still had the exact same situation, they brought in the other guy to do all the networking and cabling and all of that, and I said, look, this is obviously not a situation where it's beneficial for 2 people to be involved network-wise and IT-wise. And I said, if you're going to call this guy, then we've got to back out. And he didn't like it, but he did it. So we backed out. And he called and left a message and then sent an email. And I'll read part of the email because it was actually pretty funny, because when I told the wife about it, she just laughed. But it was basically said we have outgrown the services of insert other text name. I can more elaborate on a phone call. We need a dedicated IT company. I trust you, and we would like to reestablish a relationship with you. Is that possible? If so, let's talk.
Nice.
So I'll be calling him tomorrow. See how it goes.
There you go.
There you go.
Do good work, man, and they always come back. That's good. Very cool story. All right, Rob, how about you? What's one tip or story do you have to share with us this week?
Well, let's say this last week we had a couple different clients that we reached back out to. I would say probably our biggest thing is I guess reminding clients that we did a good job. They get very busy. We have lots of real estate companies and stuff like that we manage. Also, we have clients like this last week we had one that was a general contractor, and he forgot that he actually lost our business card, forgot our name, the whole 9 yards, had been using this other tech company because he couldn't even remember who we were. I called him up because we had set up a little file server for him at one point, and I said, hey, just reaching out, haven't heard anything from you for a while, not asking of anything, just wanted to check in on you, just say, see how things are going. He goes, oh, I am so happy you called me. I've been using this other guy. I absolutely hate him. Where's your phone number? Send me an email right now. And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's totally cool. So that's one of the tips that I like to do. I like to have my staff every once in a while. If we have, you know who your cream of the crop clients are, and you know who your, not so cream of the crop clients are, and maybe just make a list or something. We have a list that we keep of, our good clients that we really truly enjoy working with, and everyone has those clients where you're like, man, I wish all my clients were this guy.
Right.
And so we make a list of those, and every once in a while we just we call them up and say, hey, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just checking in on you. That's all. How, everything going good? Cool. Talk to you later. Keeps you in the forefront. It keeps your business, in the back of their mind. They called and checked up on me for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Maybe I should do business with them. And it works really well for us.
That's good. That's a great tip. Yeah, people definitely need to that more meeting with the customer at their level and just being available.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. All right, and joining us, Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. Better late than never. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, not bad. I'm surviving out there, with winter roads, but it's all good.
Good to have you here, man. Well, I hate to throw you on the spot right at the last second, but can you give us a tip or a story this week that would help somebody out?
Oh, sure. I don't prepare for these anyway.
Even though I sent an email 2 days ahead of time and you give me a read receipt.
Yeah. I have absolutely no preparation.
Just to be clear. Okay, I'm doing my job. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
I thought he was just here to creed bomb us.
He brought the snowpocalypse. That's what he brought. He brought the snowpocalypse.
And you know what? I hope y'all are enjoying it. At least it's not as bad as it was last year, because last year, man, I heard some houses got. Anyway, let's not turn this into a Debbie Downer here. No, so biggest tip that I actually have from this week is going to be to just slow down and understand your customer. A lot of you probably, if you follow our newsletters or go to the website or anything like that, you know that we have a retirement package, and we have somebody who was looking to retire. They needed to offload their client base, so we're kind of meeting all of these clients of theirs and learning their businesses. And what I'm finding is that I knew this already, but it really hit home for me that two companies that do the exact same thing as each other with the exact same number of computers have very different IT needs. And so if you really want to pick up those clients and pick up, we have a couple of clients that have 19 computers each. It's like a 2.5 hour conversation to figure out what it is that they want, right? So if you take that time, you're going to wind up with a long-term client. If you don't take that time, you're going to be pulling your hair out. So that's my big one. Understand your customers so you can understand how you need to run the business.
That's good. Yeah, you definitely need to get to know your customer. Again, it comes down to relationships, right? That's really what makes this business. Very cool. All right. And my one tip for this week is I'm going to tell you guys, I almost was going to do a cross-promotion show But for those that haven't listened to Podnutz Daily number 452, I did a solo episode. Just me, myself, and I. Well, that would be triple, but anyways,
What?
you know what I mean. So I'm encouraging everybody to go to podnutz.com/PND452. Listen to that episode of Podnutz Daily. Let me know if you liked it, because quite honestly, talking to myself was a little different. I actually like talking to you guys better. But if it's something that people are wanting, then I might do some fill-in with that every once in a while and just talk about some of the background stuff that I do, get a little more in depth, and talk about me, which, of course, I love to do anyways. So it's a win-win situation. I'm just kidding. I'd rather be playing Call of Duty. Anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and move into some emails. All right, let's see. This one says, "Hey guys, I'm having a weird Windows 10 issue, and I was wondering if any of you have come across it. Basically, the start button stops functioning. You can right-click and get that menu, but the main function doesn't work. This has been an issue on multiple customers' computers. Some coming in with the issue, and some happening in the shop after a virus removal or clone to a new drive. The way I've dealt with this so far is to create a new profile and transfer data using Fabs. This, however, can become a big task if they have a lot of programs to configure. Thanks in advance for any insight you can provide. Huge fan of the show. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Shane Hunsicker, I'm going to say. I hope I didn't mess up your name too bad there, Shane. Appreciate the email. Appreciate the time you took to ask the question. When you first asked this question, I didn't have an answer for you. I might have one now, and I'm going to let you guys pipe in a second. But one of the things I ran into on my Intel NUC is, for some reason, and it might have been after some Windows updates, for some reason that thing went into tablet mode. I don't know how, because I never switched it. I never messed with anything. But if you are in tablet mode, you'll get to where the menu down at the bottom doesn't work, and you'll just get the modern app menu across the screen. But even if you get to the desktop, I would still say go into the start menu, type tablet. It'll take you to tablet mode settings, and try, again, this is funny, try turning it off and turning it on again, or turning it on and turning it off again and back on again, and see if that will help the situation, because it might have something to do with that. Like I said, I ran across a problem, and it was a weird issue, and it actually took me a few minutes to figure out, oh yeah, this operating system is made for every device from a phone on up. So obviously there's going to be some sort of tablet mode in there. I've just never messed with it because I run Windows 10 on desktops. Anyone else run across that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. That's something that we actually saw a couple times this last week, where it was a situation where there's a couple different ways that we tackled it.
Okay.
One of them was to use a PowerShell. There's a command you can find online for it. But I actually personally found that using the SFC scan now to repair the file system repaired it in the two cases that I worked on it, which was substantially easier than using the PowerShell. But that's how I approached it personally.
Very cool. Now you run the SFC scan from inside the Windows operating system, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sometimes people will take it, they'll do an offline scan or whatever, but yeah, you're right. A lot of times that will fix the problem if you're having a weird issue like that.
Yep.
All right. Second email. This one is from, let's see, this one says, "Hey Jeff, I saw this question posed by Ladarian LeBlue on LinkedIn and haven't seen any responses. I don't believe you have talked about this subject but that I'm aware of, and would enjoy hearing the possibilities, comments, and recommendations of your panel. Thanks, Roger." This is from Roger England. So this is what he'd read on LinkedIn. It says, "Best computer diagnostic tools. Happy New Year from Surefire Technologies. I'm going into the new year and I would like to improve my diagnostic tools. I currently use PC Doctor and the software is great, but I'm looking for something that is an all-in-one software for both PC and Mac. I would like to hear what other computer repair shops are using." All right, so what are you guys using in your shops for diagnostics?
I've got a good one, but I don't want to steal the fire because I'm actually really interested to see what you guys are also using.
Aren't we all?
That's
all right, Chris. Chris, what are you using in your shop?
We have TechWaru, as well as the built-in auto PC repair for instant house call. So between the two of them, we have most of what we need. And then the Tech USB for hardware diagnostics, like hard drive, RAM, all that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Marvin?
I don't know. Fluke.
you
Just hits it with a hammer.
Fluke for everything. Fluke is a networking tool. Come on now.
No, I use the D7, the Tech Waru, and there is another tool I have to see. I had used a while back. I remember PC tools from years ago, and I upgraded to there's a 3D Mark, the number 3, the letter D, MARK, makes a nice set of tools, and that's a good one. And then if you're just using a tool for like burn-in testing and stuff like that, Prime 95 is a tool that I've used for that.
Yeah, an oldie but a goodie.
Yep.
Just does what it's supposed to do. Now, actually, D7.2 has a lot of, for burn-in testing and all that, it has a lot of stuff built in that you can use right from inside there, and it does the same thing. It'll basically tag the memory and the CPU and the video card and all that. And so Rob, what do you use?
Okay, so I took a way different approach than you guys did. I should have started where you guys started. Okay, so what I did was when we first started up, we had a few different scenarios where we were doing warranty work for different companies, HP, Dell, Compaq, stuff like that. And I ended up talking to a few of their higher level technicians on the other end of the warranty work, and ended up kind of just chit-chatting with them and said, okay, well, how am I going to run these types of diagnostics without your setup there? And they go, well, you could purchase our software. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, we go through a company called Eurosoft, and you can look it up. It's called Eurosoft PC Check, and it's what the major manufacturers use. So HP, Dell, when it rolls off the line, they either boot it off of a USB drive or burn it onto a disk. But essentially what it is, it's an out-of-the operating system probing software, and it comes with VGA, USB, it comes with all sorts of little probes, so you can plug them into all the ports if you're specifically trying to test a motherboard. Most of the time we don't. And you can build your own burn-in test. So it's Eurosoft PC Check specifically. I think it costs a couple $100, but you can, obviously use it on all your machines. But we were able to build specific burn-in tests and build distribution disks. So we have a grub loader on all of our flash drives. So when you plug in a flash drive, we have a custom one that says, hey, burn-in PC, PC test burn-in CPU, burn-in hard drive, and it'll do multiple passes. So most diagnostics will do like a quick smart check, or you'll get like a basic surface scan. If we want to do a full hard drive scan where it'll actually check the cache and the motor speed and all of that stuff, that software actually goes that much farther and will do like a full 12-hour burn-in where it checks absolutely everything. And so that's our last ditch. Most of the time we're going to be using a hardware monitor to monitor temperatures, Furmark if we're going to be playing around with burning in a video card, CPU-Z, CPU-ID, heavy load. I really like heavy load. So if you can't afford PC Check, heavy load is like my all-time favorite tool because you can toggle in between RAM tests, memory tests, or memory tests, processor, hard drive. You can check the cache. Plus, you can get it portable, so you can throw it on your flash drive, plug it in, and be like, cool, test, and just walk away. But those are my major ones. So PC Check and heavy load are my two all-time favorites.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've heard of the Eurosoft before. I'm going to need to get a copy of that and check it out and see how it works. Now, from my standpoint, I'll be honest with you, I'm lazy. So I use the diagnostic tools that are built into most OEM platforms on boot up, and they work perfectly fine most of the time.
Perfect.
And if they don't have it in there already, then I'll use something like a Tech USB in a pre-boot environment and run the same types of tools that'll check the hard drive and will check the memory and all that kind of stuff. And again, I've had real good luck with that. Yeah. It just works. And most of the time I can tell, if something's going bad. Now, as far as inside the system, there's a lot of software. I do, when I load my software tools, my Fix-It tools up, D7.2, it will automatically run with things like Crystal Disk Info. And Crystal Disk will come up, and it'll just kind of give me a baseline. It's not always 100% correct, but if I'm having a problem, I just want to make sure that before I start a virus removal or whatever, that I'm going to make sure that that hard drive is not having issues. and it will tell you if it's been rewriting to other sectors and all that kind of stuff in there. So it's a good enough one to give you that good base just to start from. But yeah, as far as the in-depth stuff, if you go and do a cleanup on a computer and you still have a bunch of things going on, you really need to get something a little more in-depth.
Hey, not to sidetrack or anything, but you had mentioned Crystal Disk Info. That's also one of my really favorite tools. Do you have, and this is totally off in right field here, have you been having issues with it working on Windows 10 machines at all?
No.
Really? The last like 10 Windows 10 machines I've used it on, I just can't, it doesn't even populate the table data. I was wondering if anyone else was having that issue. Yeah.
I haven't had that problem either. I don't know if this will make a difference, but usually when I'm running Crystal Disk Info, I'm running it from the Auto PC Repair and Instant House Call.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if it's a different version or not from what's being downloaded from the website.
That very well could be. Yeah.
That's a
It
good
might be a
point
new
because,
version issue.
Yeah, I use D7 too, and mine loads up the portable version immediately on startup.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could be the issue.
Okay.
All right. So those are some of the best diagnostic tools that we use, and I love it that everybody had a little bit different flavor of what they like to use. And I'm definitely going to have to check out the PC check tool because I've heard lots of good things about it. All right, third email. Let's see. This says, "Hello, Jeff. I am new to being an official computer technician, as you can see from my last emails. And I was one of the, as you guys would say, amateurs that would wipe a drive and tell the client that they had to deal with losing all their data."
Oh.
Oh no.
Welcome to not paying your bills.
Yes. What is the best program to use image clone a hard drive? What do you suggest to do a backup of users' data, image or clone? Thanks. Sorry if these seem like novice questions. If I just have never had the extra hard drive to do a backup like that, and I never really cared about my data enough to do a backup for myself. So I never really offered it to my friends or family when I would fix their computers. But now that I'm working for a company, I imagine that I will be needing to do this, and I want to be experienced as possible with restoring files to a fresh OS or copying the clone to another hard drive. And this is from Curtis Pulaski, computer technician, 8-Tray Computers, it looks like. So thank you, Curtis, again for the email. And all right, Marvin, what do you use for cloning hard drives?
Well, for the software side of it, I basically have landed on AOMEI, AOMEI, as the software version where if I'm going to put a drive in my hard drive toaster, and then I'll use that software to do a clone from one drive to the other. ASUS is another software that I recommend. They have both free and paid versions, and if you're going to be making money off this on a regular basis, I'd recommend upgrading to the paid version. It has just a little bit more features, a little bit more speed, so that can save you a little time when you're doing that. Hardware-wise, I have been upgrading all of my hardware tools, and I just have landed on eSystor, ESYSTOR, as a hard drive duplicator, which also is a sanitizer, so you can wipe drives as well. And that literally has cut my duplicating time, I would say, 75%. So drive clones that used to take me at 1 to 2 hours, I'm getting done in 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
And
nice.
I will find the one that I purchased. There's different models. You can get one that's just a 1-to-1 drive, which I'm actually going to get that to use as my portable drive that I take with me on the road. The one that I have is a 1-to-3, so I can copy 3 drives at once, or I can sanitize or do a complete wipe of 3 drives at once. So,
nice. Okay.
Marvin, do you mind if I ask you a question about that? That's actually, I'm looking for something like that. Do you mind if I ask a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we've used, we manage a bunch of schools here locally, and periodically we have to wipe 50 machines or so at a time and re-image and whatnot. We have a 1-to-5 duplicator, and the duplicator issues that we've been having is, one, ours don't sanitize, so the fact that yours does that is really cool. when you're scaling, ours doesn't scale. So say, for example, we have a 60 gig SSD and we want to go to, does it do partition shrinking or partition scaling? If we go from a 60 to a 120, then it won't, you have to, once you get into the operating system, rescale or adjust the partition table to fit it properly, because it'll only clone that 60 over to the 120. It won't automatically scale. Can yours go up and down? So say, for example, your drive had, let's say it's a 120 with 30 gigs of data on it. Can you clone to a 60, or is it only directional up?
No, the one that I got is just simply it'll match partition or drive to drive. It won't scale up or down, and most of the hardware ones won't do that. I think I did find one, and I'll go through the link here as soon as we're done, and I can get on the web. I think there's one that does it, but I think it was a hefty, $5,000 price.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. The one that I got, the 1 to 3, was only $945.
Oh, okay.
And I very rarely have to size up or down. And if I do the Aomi software, I'll just throw it in my toaster and do it individually.
How long have you been using the cloner yourself? Like, because the one that we have to replace every 3 months. Like, it is just absolutely garbage. We have to constantly rebuy it. It just, for some reason, just fries out. How long have you been using yours?
This one I had a couple of months. I probably do all our stuff a year. So, I mean, I do a lot of cloning. So
cut out there a little bit. Can you say that again there, Marvin? Real quick?
That wasn't me.
Chris, what are you doing? So the question was, how often do I have to replace them? I've only had this last one this is right at my 3rd month, so
okay.
I don't know how long it's last, but all of the other ones I've had before, I mean, they last, but I don't, use them.
Yeah.
This is my 4th generation. I still have the previous 3. I just don't use them as much.
Gotcha. We use ours so much they're like a beaten up old hammer,
Wow.
Yeah. Well, this one I've used a lot. I mean, I'll burn, I'll use it 3 or 4 times a day, even if I'm doing just one drive, just because it's so much faster.
Well, that's good, though. That's cool that you can actually vouch for a product. It's really hard to, especially as a computer technician, go out and find these products. A lot of it is trial and error. You're like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to drop $1,000 on something no one's ever heard of. And so that's really cool that you've actually tried that product out. Now that I know, and I can look at that company and say, okay, well, I know someone else that's used that. I can try it out, with a little more confidence, knowing that it worked for them, at least in that period, and that'll probably be our next upgrade.
Well, and let me clarify, the actual reason that I purchased it was not the duplicating side, it was the sanitizing.
Exactly, and that's a huge feature.
Because I got tired of, some of my drives, a 1 terabyte drive could take 20+ hours.
Oh, absolutely.
If I've got to dedicate a machine or laptop to it, this thing will sanitize 3 drives, 1 terabyte in 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, wow, that thing is just
nice.
Must be pounding it.
So, for that, and it does a secure wipe and a DoD. I mean,
That's
so
cool.
Either one, and that works great. The only problem is it will not give you documentation.
Yeah.
So if you do have to document for somebody, it won't print out a sheet. Normally what I'll do is I'll just take a picture of the drive in the machine because it's got an LED display that'll say, wiped and how much time it took and all of that.
Good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's good. So, Rob, from your standpoint, what do you use for? Obviously, you're using something for cloning. Do you use anything software-wise as far as for cloning or backing up data for your customers?
Well, yes, and I've got a little bit of a story too. So,
okay.
the thing that I was encountering is, and it was very frustrating to me. A lot of software will allow you that exact scenario that I had mentioned, where you have let's say a 1 terabyte drive and you're using 30 gigs of data, and you're like, you're using 30 gigs. Why don't we give you like a 120 SSD or a 240 or something like that? It won't go down. And we're partners with Shadowcraft, so we do a lot of their managed backup imaging stuff. So we have them on the ready. We do a ton with Acronis. Acronis is something that I see every day. So and then this new player that we've recently been starting playing with is it's from a company called Farstone. And Farstone makes if my techs watch this, they're gonna laugh. They make a product called Clone Disk, and we mispronounce it in the store because it's funny. But The interesting thing about Clone Disk is it's unlike ESIS, it's unlike the Macrium software, it's unlike the Seagate software or Acronis, is that it doesn't give a damn about bad sectors. And so you get a customer that comes in with a drive that's just toast, right? And you've tried to do a clone with Acronis, you've tried to clone with your duplicator, it just doesn't work. Well, it does a bit-by-bit copy, and then it lets Windows repair what's broken. And so we've had situations where even like SpinRite hasn't been able to really touch a disk, and we throw it in there, and it may take an entire day to run a clone using Farstone, but it does work. And we've had situations where we're like, how did it do this? But it's booted, and we do a system file check, and we run diagnostics, and it's golden. Acronis is my big player because it does remove the it does have universal restore, so you can go from one unlike hardware to another. So if you make a clone to like a USB drive or something. Now this is a sticky subject for me because it's quite frustrating in certain situations. Acronis has two products. One is their True Image Home. The other one is what's called Snap Deploy. And we have a Snap Deploy server. Basically, it uses a Pixie boot you boot up all your clients, and then it locks into the server, and then it pulls the image from the hub, and then images all the machines. Now the Snap Deploy has universal restore, so you can just put the disk in, you run it on your or unlike hardware, boom, you're up and running. And what it's doing is it's removing what's called the HAL, or the hardware activation layer, and essentially does the same thing SysPrep does. Outside of that, I always wondered why you couldn't go from a larger drive down to a smaller SSD, and that just baffled the heck out of me. Like, it really frustrated me every time I go to clone, and it wouldn't work for some reason. And half the time, Acronis would work and do that. It is a licensing thing. So, 15 pages into Google, I found a forum on StorageCraft's website, and someone had mentioned that and said, hey, just so you know, our software doesn't do this. You have to move the partition to here in order to duplicate it to that, yada, yada. And the reason for this, and then they linked it to the Wikipedia article, it's a patent thing. So some company somewhere owns the rights via software, not via hardware, to take a larger partition and shrink it down to a smaller, or same partition, smaller drive, and be able to produce it. Apparently that patent is going to expire this year. So I'm really excited to see what Acronis and Clone Disk and all of these other companies come up with, because that patent does expire. So we should be getting some really good partition tools this year. But there's my little story, and there's the stuff that I use.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, that's way in depth. That's very cool. All right, Chris, what about you? What do you use for backing up data or cloning drives?
I got a toaster, and I put the first one in the front, and then the second one in the back, and I hit a button, and then if I come back in an hour, it should be done.
Nice.
Do you turn it to brown? Do you set it to 3 minutes? And then
I set it to 11.
11, good.
Yeah.
Good. Extra toasty.
Yeah. No, I don't want to rely on software for stuff like that.
Okay.
And generally, if we're because we do all of our backups to the cloud, right? For everybody. So if we're going to be cloning a drive like that, it's going to be because we're replacing the hard drive for the most part. So we're just going to do a drive-to-drive clone, and that's it. We're not going to play around with it any much more than that.
Okay. Very cool. Now I will tell you from my standpoint, there's a couple different things, and number one, if the drive is in good condition, that's one thing. Now what I use 100% of the time is Fab's Auto Backup. I throw it on a lot of times I'll pull the drive out, I throw it on my bench machine. I've got a large hard drive on there that I will basically start Fabs up. It backs up all the critical data, including things like your Office validation file, including your what used to be called the N2K file. All these different things that are already built into Fabs backs up everything. And I can move the information. I could go from a Windows XP or 7 machine to a Windows 8 or Windows 10 machine, and it's still going to put all the files and everything back where it needs to be. So for me, this tool is invaluable. I use it all the time, and the price is right. You can get it. It's a one-time fee, and he does a humongous amount of updates all the time in making it better and better. And back in the day when I first started using Fabs, probably 5 years ago, I would actually manually back up a lot of the data myself while using Fabs. Nowadays, I'm so comfortable with it, it just works. So that's what I use to back up data. Now, as far as cloning a drive, if you have a drive, like Rob was saying, with bad sectors, the drive toaster is going to do you no good. Acronis, a lot of these other tools are not going to do you any good. So I'll use a product like Reclaim Me Pro. And basically, they've got Reclaim Me Recovery and all this kind of stuff for different things. But their Pro product, you can basically throw a drive on there and it will back it up sector by sector, whether the sectors are messed up or not. Once you've got that clone image, you can move it back over and all that kind of stuff. So that's one. There's lots of products like that out there, but that's one of the products that I have used to be able to get information back from a data recovery standpoint. But as far as cloning, you could use a drive toaster. I use Acronis. I love Acronis. I use Acronis on my own machines. And then most of the time, Fab's Auto Backup is the data backup. And then I can move it right back to their system. By using Fab's Auto Backup too, I just puts it right back on there, puts it back where everything belongs. Documents, folders, desktop, whatever. So it's a no-brainer. And what happens a lot of times, I've said this before, I don't really care where everybody's file systems and stuff are, but the reality is that with Fab's Auto Backup, it puts everything back where they're used to it being, so I don't really get any pushback from people saying, where's this file? Or where's that at? Because it's right back where it was even before we started. So anyways, thank you, Curtis, for the email, and hope that answers some questions and pushes you in the right direction. Definitely check some of those things out. All right, so let's go on to our last email, and then we'll get into our main subject. It says, hi, guys. I'm a new Podnutz enthusiast. Last year, I moved to Seattle, where the tech industry is vast and beautiful. I see plenty of opportunity here in IT and would like to take advantage of my love of PCs and hopefully turn it into an income. Of course, my ideal position would be building dream machines, as this is where my personal history and enthusiasm lies. But I realize I actually need something of a career before I can spend hours customizing a water-cooled system for someone. Most of my past experiences with tech have been fixing and troubleshooting friends and family's PCs, as well as being in charge of a network and building an intranet for a family business where I worked for 5 years. For all intents and purposes, I was their IT manager. However, I knew enough to never professionally refer to myself in that manner. I didn't have the schooling or any of the qualifications. I only know what I do today because of trial and error and loads of independent research. My question simply is this: where do I go to school to take it to the next level? My boyfriend is recommending traditional schooling. Employers here love to see University of Washington on a resume. He has stated that he's gotten jobs based on graduating without any question as to what his major was. I know in the tech industry, certifications can or should matter more than traditional schooling. I found an online school, Western Governors University, that boasts a short graduation time, less than 2 years, as well as the ability to acquire viable certifications as you complete the course. This seems like the better option for me. I'm worried about the time and effort it will take me to first go to a community college, then transfer to a university and independently acquire the certifications, when there's a chance that I can get all that I need quickly and efficiently. As I type this, I feel like the obvious answer would be to go through with the longer haul of graduating from university, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm afraid the money and the time involved would only harm my enthusiasm, as it would push to the finish line to 6+ years ahead of me, since I'm almost 28, and anything I did prepping for college was long lost years ago. Not to mention the money that it would take to get me there. Is WGU a viable option? Do the certifications weigh heavier on employability than where the degree came from? Where do I start? Thank you for being an amazing source of information and hilarity. And this is from Tarina Bruno. Yeah,
that's a lot of questions there.
So this, and the reason I read this email last is this is going to go into our main topic. How important is education? And what I mean by that is really there's a lot of different scenarios that people take. Are you going to work for an employer? Are you going to work for corporate IT? Are you going to work for yourself and start your own business? So with those things in mind, how important is education, whether it be from a technical school, a university, or just the world of hard knocks? Any of those three things. And It's hard because it all depends on what your goals are. And I'll just give you an example as far as employability. You can become a supervisor or manager in most businesses outside of IT or anything else. And you could literally have a degree in basket weaving. And the reason I say that is because a lot of companies just want that, hey, I went to college for 2 years or 4 years. They want enough discipline in there. It's kind of a barrier to entry. So in other words, I need to have this piece of paper to pass the first part of what an employer is looking for in order to be hireable. Now, for me, myself, and for my business, as far as IT is concerned, I'm not hireable. I don't want to be hired by anybody. It's not my cup of tea.
That's
so
awesome.
you can't hire me.
I don't want your work.
Everybody's got a price, Jeff.
That's
I'm not
true.
saying that the company would wonder. I'm just saying that I probably shouldn't work for you.
Exactly. So anyways, so let's go into the discussion. How important is education? And between certifications, regular schooling, technical schooling, what are some of the things that maybe Trina should be looking at in this vein of looking for what she's going to do for basically the rest of her life?
Who wants to go first?
I can.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sure.
Noise.
Take the young guy.
Listen, all right. No, hey, I'm being serious here. Don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
This is my serious face.
This is what I'm hearing, and I'm going to reference the email, right? Because there's Jeff. I'm trying. This is a serious face.
I'm sorry.
I get
Go
one
ahead.
of these a year. Just let me keep it.
Go.
So
Ignore me.
there's two. There's two scenarios. I mean, there's the scenario that's being described in the email, which is, hey, listen, I want to get a job, and all these places are looking for a university degree or diploma or whatever. I don't know what you guys call it down there. And this is what I need to do to get the job. Is that important? Absolutely, that is important. If you want to get something that's not the bench tech, if you want to get something that's not just the apprentice, and that's what it's going to turn into in a lot of shops. My shop's different because I understand just how much BS some of the school system is because I've gone through it. So I'm not looking for somebody with a university degree. I want somebody who can tear the computer down or figure out the networking problem or whatever. The people who are hiring you in these bigger companies don't. What they understand, it's what's on paper. So when the hiring person decides, okay, listen, I'm going to put out this ad, and these are all the criteria that I have. Oh, and a university degree is going to be on there. Because we want somebody who's gone through education. We want somebody who knows what they're doing, and that's the only way that they can equate it. So, yeah, if you want to go out and get a high-paying job in this field, absolutely, you need to get that education. And the more known the school is that you go to, the better. Private colleges, the one that I went to, isn't there anymore. They were shut down. Nothing to do with Canada, by the way. It was the U.S. branch of the school that screwed that all up, but that's not even, I'm not going to get into that. I wound up getting a job at Honda doing IT there for almost 2 years, or maybe a little over 2 years, because I had a little piece of paper that said that, hey, I went to school for this. I wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. As a self-employed person, looking at the other side of it, nobody asks me what kind of education I have. I've never had that question. I've never been asked about certifications. I've been asked, hey, listen, this is the problem that I have. Can you fix it? And that's it.
Right.
So education is important if you're trying to enter the workforce. Knowledge is important if you're trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm not telling you don't go to school if you want to be self-employed, because if it really helped me. I learned a lot going to school, and I'm very glad that I did it. But it wasn't a requirement for me to open up a business. It was a requirement for me to work in the corporate world in IT. So that's the importance, in my opinion.
Chris, would you say that going to school helped discipline you as far as because obviously when you go to regular public school or whatever type of junior high, high school, and all that kind of stuff, there's a criteria that you go through, but you're kind of forced to do a lot of things in order to basically get good grades. When you go to college or university, would you say that you were more disciplined because you're paying money out and it disciplines you to, hey, I really actually need to do the work, or I'm just wasting my money?
Okay. No, but I didn't because I was already motivated before I decided to take out a student loan to go to school. If I had had somebody who was willing to teach me what I was taught in school and didn't have to pay money for it, I would have been just as disciplined. However, I was also not the youngest person in my class. I can tell you that some of the young guys in there and some of the younger, well, we had 2 girls in the class. They were both good. Some of the young guys in there, they needed that structure. So
Okay.
I think that the structure and the discipline absolutely helped them, but for me it was the content. It was what I was taught, how I was taught it, because we had a great professor. I have nothing but great things to say about that man, and I'm sorry to see that he's not teaching anymore. But on top of that, we were given vouchers for all our certifications that mean absolutely really nothing. But that's a whole different conversation.
No, that's exactly what I was getting at, though. So there are people that would help, and I think a lot of times that's what an employer is looking for too. Hey,
Yeah.
did you dedicate yourself for 2 or 4 years to get a piece of paper? Whether you learned anything really other than book knowledge and the ability to pass a class, that's up in the air. That's a 50-50. But
Oh, for sure.
the discipline to be able to do that, I think, does weigh heavily on that side. So
Yeah.
let's go into Marvin. What do you have to say about education?
I like it. Well, I will agree with Chris that for a big part of this industry, education in the traditional sense may not matter, because I think that most of us went to the school of hard knocks, stupid school, or whatever we did to, learn on the job and make the mistakes and learn how not to make the mistake the next time. But I will say that I'm on both sides, because when I started out my business, I did have education. I had a master's degree, and I had a major and a minor in my undergrad, but it had nothing to do with computers. But when I was out trying to go out and get business and do stuff, the businesses that I went to liked the fact that I had education. When I was hiring my techs, I simply used it as a filter. I wanted to know that the person I was going to hire had something. And whether it was a certificate showing that they, got it from Microsoft or CompTIA or whatever, that they had some semblance of knowledge in their head. But I also wanted to know that they worked somewhere else. So I wanted both. I wanted the education and I wanted them to work. I didn't want to have somebody cutting their teeth on their first job working for me. I wanted a tech who already knew some stuff that I didn't have to spend the time, teaching them. I teach them my way. I teach them how to do advanced stuff, but I wanted them to have the basic stuff already done. Now, I've also been on the side where I've gone in to get business, and as Chris said, most of the time, they're not even going to ask. Because either you're going to come in there because they got a problem, they want to know you can fix it, or you're coming in as a referral, and they can refer much more than the education. However, I've had some companies that will, basically because they've heard the lingo, or they're used to hiring, they will say, hey, what certifications do you have? Where'd you go to school? What do you know? And at least I was able to tell them, Microsoft certified, I'm HP certified, I'm this, I'm that, I have insurance, all of that stuff. So it really does depend what it is you're going to do and who you're going to work for. If you're going into the corporate world and you're going to be a part of an IT department, most likely you're going to need a degree, a certification, or something. So if you're young enough to be graduating high school and looking to get into that type of the workforce, that side of the workforce, and you want to be in IT management, you want to be all those positions that really turn into management positions, then I would look to going to either a full university and going through the MIS degree route, or going to a trade school. and whatever the colleges are, ITT, Kaiser, whatever, and focus on tech. I would do that. If you're looking to start your own business and just do computer repair, for residential or open a store, no, you probably don't need any of that stuff.
Okay.
Now, can I say one thing to that though?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that really helped me out in school, and if you're going to take one course, just one course, take something in management and how to manage people, because I will tell you that there are people who can fix things that I didn't even know was a problem and have absolutely no idea how to manage people. And so if you want to get into a management position, or if you want to run a business, or if you want to do any of those things, you need to know how to manage people. Because if your business grows, you're eventually either going to need to manage your clients or manage your employees. That is something that really you're not going to have experience in unless you've had a job that's provided you that experience. So take a course on that.
It's good. I like that. All right, Rob, what do you have to say?
Wow. Okay, first off, Chris and Marvin, I don't know how you did it, but you took all the thoughts out of my head and they came out of your mouths. So that's amazing. I'm gonna spin it a little differently. Since you guys said everything that I was thinking, I'm gonna say if I was the person watching this, I would want somewhere to start. So I would say one of the things that has helped me a ton is, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, it's called IT Pro TV. If you follow a lot of the other stuff that's kind of floating around the net for techs, IT Pro TV walks you through the certifications. Now, if you go and you're getting the CompTIA tests or the MCSEs or the CCNAs, all that stuff, you can obviously cheat the tests. You can go on eBay, you can buy the test answers, stuff like that. Tech shouldn't be looking to just get that piece of paper. Ultimately, that information is going to be your toolkit. So IT Pro TV is a really good place to start. It's like $40 a month, and I actually provide it to my techs, and I actually give a little bit of a kickback. So I say, okay, well, if you guys watch it, I will pay for the first test. So here is this $40 subscription. You can watch it whenever you want. I will, as the employer, pay for your first test. I'm going to have to drive you 4 hours to do it, but it's going to benefit me because you're going to be certified. That's something else we can throw on our wall. So that's something that I would start with. If you're looking for a corporate job, sorry, you got to suck it up and you got to go and you got to get a degree. If you're starting your own business, I mean, all of us here pretty much are, self-taught. A lot of research. I mean, hours and hours of research on every little thing. What's the difference between this? What's the difference between that? Yada 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 yada. And you got to store it all in that brain. The single thing, and this I think should be shared a little bit. My business was, I'm not going to put any numbers, was doing okay. I mean, I was paying rent. I was starving on ramen, but I was doing okay. When I first started in the first couple of years. When I started getting really involved in sales and management, we quadrupled. We are now doing a ridiculous amount of overhead and revenue. And the reason for that is because, just like Chris had said, and this is so important, computer people are not salespeople. They are completely different mindsets. It's just like programmers can't be designers. If you can get a degree or at least something in sales or management, so if you're going to go to college, get something in management, because if you decide 10 years down the road, you know what, this IT thing sucks. I absolutely hate working in IT. At least then you've got something that you can work with moving forward. And Chris absolutely nailed it. IT people try to get that experience. When I first started, I obviously tried to do all the certs and stuff, and I couldn't afford it. I actually was working as a designer for a local newspaper, and had lost my job. They laid everyone off, and I went and decided to write a business plan and try to get this off the ground. And the one thing that I learned was try to find a mentor. The mentor and that was when I joined BNI and all these business groups. That's what kind of took me to that next level, is learning from someone that's already been there. You're not going to learn how to do payroll the first time by yourself. You're not going to learn how to manage people. You're not going to know about body language and key terms and the right words to say that activate those sales triggers for people. Once you find a mentor, find someone that you respect. It doesn't have to be in the same field. My mentor actually came from a carpet cleaning company. It was a carpet cleaning company that had been in the business for almost 20 years and had struggled the whole way. And just the little things that he had said to me, don't do this, don't do that, that's stupid, and a lot of it had to do with business and selling to people. took me to that next level, and I still respect him as my mentor because he taught me so much. And it's, do lunch with someone once a week, or for me, I actually went around before I started my business and volunteered as a just as a working hand in their computer repair shops for a couple hours to say, hey, I don't want any money, I just want to feel the atmosphere, I want to see how you handle your customers. And you immediately get the feel for which companies are going to be around in 24 months and which companies aren't. And you've got the companies that just let's throw garbage under the desk and receipts don't matter. And then you've got the other companies that are like, well, I'm going to meet with my CPA in 2 weeks and I got to make sure this is done. Try to find a company to mentor with if you're going to start your own business. But other than what Marvin and Chris said, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's amazing because I was listening to all three of you, and you actually all three hit from way different areas and kind of brought it all together. It's great. And I will say this, let me talk about certifications real quick. And I like what Rob was saying, is that's great for an employer to pay for something like IT Pro TV, because I am all for educating yourself. Now, a lot of us will go, we've gone online, that's the way we've learned. We've learned from just doing hands-on training. But if you need to know something, I am not against certifications whatsoever. Now, do you actually need the piece of paper, or you need to pass the test? I don't know how many people know this. We actually homeschool our kids. Mostly my wife homeschools our kids, but she teaches them. 2 of them went to college, and I've got 3 more to go. But the reality is, what we teach them is we don't teach them necessarily by a grade system. Yeah, that's all great and fine and dandy and whatever. Our kids will learn a subject until it's learned, and they just keep at it. Once they learn it and actually know it, and they're not just regurgitating or just repeating it, then they actually know the subject, and they'll be able to, down the road, they'll be able to take that subject and actually use the information that they learned. And I think that's what everybody needs to do in this business, is that you need to learn things, not necessarily to take a test, but you need to learn things so that you can know better how to do it. And I think in any industry, whether it's from real estate to mortgage brokers or whatever, the reality is I'm going to say this to make some people mad, 99% of people suck at those jobs. And the reason is because they never continue their education. And they really need to do that, because times are changing, laws change, things change. You need to take a pulse of your business and figure out where you need to go next. And you're not going to do that without having some sort of knowledge. And that's what education really is all about. It's about getting the knowledge so you can actually use it. It's not about getting the knowledge so you can just regurgitate it. There's a big, big difference between the two. And so I encourage everybody to constantly educate yourself. One of the things I said, and I'm 45 years old, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough. And what I noticed is I got past 40, I started becoming kind of a curmudgeon a little bit in some areas. And I had to realize that if I'm going to run a business and I'm going to do what I need to do, I need to be on top of what's going on. And every one of us needs to do that. I've seen way too many people in this industry that are going to sit back and they do the same thing over and over again, and they're frustrated, and it's because they don't want to change anything. They don't want to learn anything new. They're like, hey, it's the way I've been doing it, and yeah, it sucks, but I don't care. And I'm like, I told my wife a long time ago, I said, seriously, if I ever start acting like that, just put me down. I'm done. I'm out of here. And of course she laughs, and sometimes, depending on how mad I make her, she might actually do it. But anyways, it's really important, I think, to educate yourself on a regular basis. And one of the things I've been doing is I have really started to, I've talked about this for probably since I've been doing this podcast. I just started yesterday, I restarted my Audible subscription. I started listening to a few less podcasts, and I actually started reading some books. And one of the very first books that I started reading, that I read probably 20 years ago, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yep. And I'm going to tell you guys that if you're running a business, you need to know how to deal with people. If that's what you're going to do, then educate yourself. And again, you're talking about a $9, $10, $20 book, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. invest in yourself, invest in your business so that you can become better, not bitter. Because if you keep doing things the same way over and over again, you will get bitter, you will get tired of this business, and you will probably quit or go nuts, one of the two. So definitely take the time, take the effort. Guess what? That book, the reality, that's a tax write-off. And again, I've said this before, if you're running your own business and you're not paying your taxes, shame on you. Yes, I said shame on you. You need to pay your taxes. You need to run your business legitimately as a business. And guess what? You're going to get a lot of perks for doing it the right way. Trust me. It pays more for itself to be able to write things off properly in your business than you have to worry about making an extra $20 or whatever it is to go get a McDonald's meal or whatever. I don't know. But I'm just saying that it's very, very important for us to educate ourselves on a consistent basis.
Can I
yeah, go ahead,
to
Chris.
That?
Absolutely.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read it actually years ago, and amazing book. For those of you who are worried about costs, it's actually on sale right now on Amazon for $8.22, or on Kindle for 70 cents. And it's one of the books that you can get for free if you take an Audible trial. So I've run out of excuses for people not to read this other than just not wanting to. So I threw a link in the chat. I'll hold on to that link for the show notes as well.
I really like that get better, not bitter thing. That's I don't know if you came up with that, but that's
probably not.
That one's staying. I like that one.
I regurgitate a lot of things. I've heard somebody say that before, but what I've seen in this business is I've seen a lot of people that own their own businesses, and they do just get bitter over time. And it's like, quite honestly, if I get to the point where I'm bitter about something, I'm done. I'm moving on. What's the point? Life is short.
I think really at the bottom of all of this conversation across all of us, the investing in yourself thing is really the key there. I mean, people's careers change, people's relationships change. At the end of the day, you still have that information, and that's awesome. That's really what we need to talk about there.
All right. Well, I think we've added. I guess the bottom line is it's going to be different for each and every individual, but definitely look at yourself and kind of figure out where you're at and what it is you want to do and what your career path is going to be. And there's nothing wrong with having backup plans. So if the backup plan is, I think Chris mentioned this earlier, is having that university degree, or it might have been Rob, one of you guys mentioned it, having that backup is maybe 10 years down the road, I do need to get a job, and I'm glad I got a degree so that I could go into some sort of managerial position or whatever, then go ahead and do that. But, and I've told my kids, even though I've told them that a lot of times the barrier to entry is going to be that college level degree for a job, and I encourage them to get that, not knowing what they're going to do. But I said, if you actually want to make the most money you possibly can, you're going to want to go into business for yourself, because there's no other way in the United States of America, unless somehow you just by accident write a great app and somebody pays you millions of dollars for it. Other than that, there's really not a great way in America other than owning your own business. And there's a lot to that, and it's great to do, but it's a lot of work also. But sometimes I think, because I've gone the other path, I've done it on both sides, and working a job is a lot of work too, because it's mundane, it's old, it gets tiring. But learning things and doing things in my business actually keeps it exciting. So I think with that being said, Rob, if people wanted to find out more about what you are doing, where would they do that?
Well, it depends on which project. If you're reaching out for the UpperCase stuff, I personally love to mentor people. I'm a big email back and forth kind of, can I help you kind of thing. So if you need some help with that, you can reach me on the UpperCase side, which is Robert at uppercasecs.com. If you want to reach me on the BusyBench side, it's Robert at busybench.com.
Absolutely. And a couple of Podnutzes ago, we did a interview with Rob about BusyBench and what it's all about. So go check that out. And Marvin, if people want to find out more about you, where could they go?
Well, maninthevan.net will redirect to my mbsystems.net page, and call me, email me, check out my Google Plus.
I've never even seen you on Google Plus, other than want to communicate with you. Anyways. All right, Chris, if people want to find out more about what you're up to, where could they do that?
Well, they can do that on our website, www.rstechteam.com. You can email us at info@rstechteam.com, or you can call us, 866-568-2813.
Awesome. Appreciate everybody coming on the show today. And if you want to come join us, you can join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. You can join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We have audio available over at podnutz.com, or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Computer Repair Podcast. Send your questions and feedback to podnutz@podnutz.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Really appreciate you guys. And I want to give a special shout out to Kevin Berry and Matthew Rodella for giving to the Patreon campaign. Appreciate it. You guys can support this show by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. All right, we're still on the air. Good show, everyone. A lot of good information.
That was my first attempt at working with others. Give me some tips, guys. How did I do? Was I rude and obscene?
It's terrible.
No.
We can't show this to our kids.
You kept it family friendly, which I appreciate. So
good. Also, I wanted to point out, because I'm a big podcaster guy too, if you search computer repair, yours is the first 3 on the iPhone in the podcast section. So just want to throw that out. That's pretty sweet.
Nice. Woo. Very cool. We must be doing something right.
Must be doing something right.
What's the other 2?
Hold on.
We're gonna go take care of it.
Yeah, we can take care of this right now. Listen, people.
Black Hat SEO.
One of the wonderful things that I've always done organic SEO. I've never done anything that could. I don't try to gamify the system. There's no point because it never lasts.
Exactly. I actually learned something and this might help you guys out. So when I first opened UpperCase, I was stupid. I probably shouldn't have been in business, but I had for the organic SEO is easy to dominate. Like that whole market is, if you have I've noticed that with IT people generally, they have websites that are just static HTML websites, and there's really no content. It's a phone number kind of thing. And so I tried to generate, very mobile responsive websites and stuff like that. And when I first started, I was dumb, and I went on eBay and I bought one of those backlinks starter kit things, right? Okay. And I was like, I gotta get a good start on this. Gotta, get some backlinks. And it worked. Surprisingly, it worked great for my website. It launched it really good. But what I didn't, in my mighty wisdom here, I didn't make the connection there of what a quality backlink was and what a crap backlink was. And so I kind of weighed the two, and all I saw was the benefit. I was ranking really high. I was beating out computer companies that were, around for 20 years and yada yada. And then I noticed that it just started slipping. It was just like, and so I started, reaching out, doing news articles and stuff, and it went back up, and we've been there for a while. So when we launched BusyBench, I did the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, this is what I worked before. No, never buy backlinks. You will spend I've spent at least 20 hours disavowing crappy Chinese backlinks and reaching out to specific, that's how this is how you and me started. I was looking for a quality source to get a good backlink and to invest the time. And so I've done, we're talking, now this is the difference here. When you run an SEO report on busybench.com, you get 2,400 referring backlinks. 95% of them are Chinese spam websites. And so I've spent hours going through and just getting rid of all of this stuff. Never do that. Reach out to, what I found, because now I'm like this SEO guy, I've done 3 weeks worth of research, is to use like Site Explorer and explore what the citation and trust flow of a site is, and then try to attack it and be like, hey, can I write an article? Can I talk to you? And that was one of the things in the podcast that's really interesting that I think we all touched on was nothing comes easy. There's no get rich scheme in life. You invest in yourself and do the education, you invest in your business and yourself and you build it, or you work really hard and you get what comes from it. There's no, I can spend $100 on backlinks and now I'm number one on Google, or
right.
I can do this and now I can. There's none of that. There really isn't. And for some reason I had fooled myself, and I was like, you know what? In this one scenario, I might be right. And no, you end up spending so much more time trying to fix what you broke than just trying hard to begin with. And now that I've learned this, never again will I try to get rich quick.
Right, there you said it. That's exactly it.
At that point, it might have been easier to just rebrand the company.
It wasn't happening. My partner was like, no, you have to put the time in. You screwed us here. It took me probably 60 days, and I finally went through and purged everything. The lucky thing there is that when you do buy backlinks, Google starts to flag you, and they start to flag your domain because they have the pigeon or penguin or some bird algorithm that says, hey, all your content's coming from like overseas, and it's junk, and it's not relevant. And the other thing is like keyword loading, like websites where they you go to that website and it's just the same keyword 1,000 times.
Right.
Like you do that, they will blacklist you. And so I contacted them through the webmasters tool and I said, hey, I'm fessing up. I screwed up here. Am I in danger of this? And they go, no, you're not. Like your site's been up for 90 days and you screwed up a little bit, but you need to clean it up. And I'm like, okay, I'm on it now. And so went through every single link and cleaned it up. But I think it's really hard to kind of tell someone that doesn't have, like I kind of fight this all the time. You have these computer tech people who are really good at fixing things and being analytical and solving problems, but they suck with their people skills are awful, their business skills are awful, and they really honestly do need college to be able to get ahead, because college gets their feet wet, teaches them how to be social, gets them in that environment. And so for people like you guys, Chris and Marvin, dude, I did not, like, usually people in computer repair aren't like, so, by the way, I've got a master's degree in case you're wondering. That's impressive. That shows. I went to college for a little bit, but I couldn't stick it out. So that does say a lot. But it's hard to tell someone, oh, you know what, you don't need college, when you're like, it really seriously depends on the person.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's such a key to. I like the discipline of going to school, and I've thought about it time and time again. But I would rather just educate myself. Just keep the education going. I don't need to pass any certifications. I don't need to pass any tests. Let's just educate myself so I can become better at what I do.
And it was kind of funny when I found the CompTIA tests. You can eBay CompTIA test answers and memorize the answer sheet. And I'm like, who does that help? How are you benefiting?
It doesn't. It's like the people who have like eidetic memory, so they just read through the textbook the night before and then go in. But you know what? I have to say that CompTIA actually threw me off a little bit, because one of the questions that was on the test was, what's the proper way to carry a CRT monitor? Which I'm like, am I going to come across one of those? And one of the answers in the multiple choice was slung over your shoulder by the cords. So
that's awesome.
I'm just saying that I wouldn't have found that.
That would have been my answer.
That would have been, yeah. That's how you do it.
I like to drag them.
As long as you screw the screws in for the VGA hard enough, then it'll probably be okay.
Oh my gosh.
Probably.
No, it's a CRT monitor. They come with the VGA cables. They're built into them.
Yeah. Just carry by the VGA.
It's been that long since I've seen a CRT monitor that
there you go.
I didn't remember.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to end off the show for this week. We've had a lot of good stuff. And we'll see you guys here next week, next Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great week.
Bye.